Welcome to Syntax. Today, we have the former general manager of Syntax and the co-founder of Modem, which is an AI project manager, and a non-annoying terminal guy. Too oftentimes, we have terminal folks who are just, why don't you do it this way? Ben has a really awesome setup, and we're going to be diving into all of the ways that he is using his terminal for running agents, all of the cool things that he is doing. And man, I'm so excited to catch up with Ben, but I'm also excited to dive into some of his projects because just watching his most recent talk, man, it solves a lot of the problems I'm personally having. So we're going to dive all into all of that and more. My name is Scott Tolinsky, and with me as always is Wes. But most importantly, welcome, Ben.
Hey, guys. It's good to be back.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is your second time on Syntax?
Or this is the third time. It's the third time.
Yeah.
Going back a while.
Yeah.
But the last one was an emergency fill-in, so it's nice to be, properly invited.
Sometimes we need emergency fill-ins, and you're just the guy for that. So
Yeah. You got lots to say. And Ben had a talk at the AI Engineer Conference a couple of weeks ago, and I just watched the video, and I thought it was super interesting, his rig of how he's doing agentic coding, how it's done remotely, SSHing into boxes and doing it on a box versus locally. TMUX, I've been I would say it's fair that I'm a TMUX hater.
You're a hater.
Maybe changed, never really understood all of the hype around it, but Ben's usage of it, pretty good. So I think let's dive into that, man.
I'm a
us about your
TMUX not
rig.
understander. Yes.
Yes.
So I'm curious.
Okay, so I don't know. The background is, look, I'm a Mac enjoyer, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I like IDEs. I have used Cursor primarily, but even before that, VS Code, like probably a lot of people. Look, even gave the JetBrains stack a pretty good go there for a while. So that's I like debuggers. I like all those tools and everything. And look, when we're building Modem, I think it's worth mentioning that Modem is we started a year ago. And it's AI product management product. It could be project too. That's okay.
Oh, product. Did I say project?
Yeah, but the lines blur between them, so it's okay. Really quickly, product management, helping you do the non-coding tasks. I could talk about this later, but synthesizing feedback from customers, making sure your ticket backlog makes sense, following up with users when you land some stuff. I'll cut it off there. We started about a year ago. And we actually decided that we would code gen the product, the project from the very beginning. It was kind of look, the whole thesis of Modem is AI coding is 100% going to be totally real. And if you believe that, then it's going to go down, the time to deliver code is just going to keep dropping. And then the other parts of your job are going to be boring and slow. So can we work on that? And that's kind of where Modem came from. And if we were going to build it, if we believed in that future, we had to build it that way from the beginning. So I'd say it's 99% code gen, but tasteful, curated code gen. Everything is code reviewed. We go back and forth with the agents a lot. We do edit the code. Man, I was having this problem, which was, I feel like it's a problem that you're seeing a lot of lately, which is, I don't have a setup where I have there's no Jira backlog or linear backlog where agents are just spinning up all day.
Yeah.
Have you guys tried that?
No,
I don't. I think that's the craziest thing, that people have agents just constantly picking things up and churning. If I were to let her rip on my GitHub issues for all of my projects, I'd be done in a couple days, and it would not be very good.
Yeah, it would not be very good. Right. Yeah.
I've experimented with it. Even Modem, because it it ingests data and conversation data and says hey, these are product features that people are interested in. I've experimented with just having Modem spin up agents to build stuff. I don't know. I don't think we're there yet, guys. So
yeah,
I was just thinking, how can I get more done? And I started thinking about all the ways that I was being kind of I don't know, not getting as much productivity as I wanted. And one of the most basic ones, frankly, is that the machine has to be on all the time. And I feel like you're seeing this online with people joking about cracked laptops, or I feel like I even just saw a video of someone with a harness walking down the street with their laptop. I don't know, it's this.
Oh, I was just telling Wes moments ago. I installed it's an app called, oh man, what is this thing called? It's called
Caffeinate?
Keeping You Awake, which is like a free version of Caffeinate. Which, yeah, it means you can shut your lid of your laptop and have your agents still keep running.
Even if I had them still running, I don't know. I don't have like a permanent internet. Like maybe you can solve this entirely. Same. I do have a friend who's like walking around with a massive battery in his backpack, for example, and like a permanent internet connection. So people are doing it this way.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like I'd start a job in the middle of the night. Like I don't know. You ever done this? Like I'd queue, like I'd write like a plan, and then like maybe like midnight, I'd be like, go,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've done this. Yes.
And then I come back in the morning and find out, well, one, maybe it got blocked on a tool approval call because I wasn't running dangerous mode. And even though I thought I'd approved every single tool, like, nope, it tried to run one thing that I didn't approve. And so it stopped 20 minutes in, or it turned off or whatever. So look, I just started running my agents, by shelling into machines leased or whatever, like, get a droplet or get a VPS from Hertzner or DigitalOcean. I've done a lot of that. And I also just have like a pretty beefy machine that I keep connected in my basement with now 3 gig fiber, which is pretty sweet.
That's awesome.
Look, the connectivity one is another one. Like if you're on the plane, if you're on the train, you're trying to work with agents and you barely got an internet connection, as long as you can shell into a machine that has great internet, like you can go all day. So anyways, that's the preamble. I'll pause there because I've been talking here,
Yeah, I find that really interesting because I've been finding like I got the MacBook M1, just M1 Max, whatever, like the best one you could buy when I got it. And I've been noticing recently, it's starting to slow down. And a lot of that is because I'm running several agents at once. There's background processes, you're running a lot more software. Things are starting to get laggy. And I often think like maybe I should just be running all of this stuff not on my machine, right? You can run it when you're not there. You can run it when like the whole IBM thin client. Like, are we back to that?
We could be. I'll also add, I was hitting the machine like limits too. Like, look, you get 2 agents that are trying to hit like your test suite at the same time, depending on the test suite. Like a lot of our test suite hits the database, so they're pretty heavy. I've hit problems with like max. I have to optimize the number of connections you're opening, for example, in the test suite. But I get up to I get up to max CPU pretty fast.
Yeah,
even on an M5. I don't know if you guys are there on that.
Not yet. But I've been waiting for the next ones to come out.
Waiting for the next one. But also, it's just like there's so many processes that get started and not stopped and just kind of sit around and hang out and take up space and all this stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know. Look, I just committed. I may have had a weird setup anyways. Like I really enjoy open code and Pi and even just Claude code. I would do this thing with Cursor where I'd actually just open up like a window, like a dedicated terminal for like Claude code or open code. But I would just use Cursor for like tab complete and like navigating diffs and editing code. So I felt like you're halfway there. Like you're using, once you realize that you're just using the terminal agent quite a lot and like, well, how much do I need this IDE? And so that turned into like, as a norm core like Mac user, what if I just shell in to my machine and I just do all the work there? You lose a bunch of things. I don't want to say that it like is awesome, but I've learned a bunch of things along the way.
So like tell us about that, because like I've SSH'd into boxes before, and like what I find is that it's a little bit limited because like you don't have all the stuff that you have installed on your machine, and certainly you can get all of that set up. So like, is that what you're doing? You're just getting like a box with everything installed that you needed, or you just kind of let the agent install everything? So that's kind of like my first question. And the second one is like, doesn't the terminal suck as a UI? I use it every single day, but like limited, isn't it?
Well, let me start. I'll give the setup. The setup that I use is Tailscale, SSH into the machine. I think you guys have talked about Tailscale here. Maybe even a dedicated video, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
I love Tailscale. I use it for every system. I have even my wife set up on Tailscale to connect to our services.
Yeah. Still watching the syntax content, still following along.
Right on.
Was there a Tailscale episode, or did I hallucinate this whole thing? Maybe I'm
No,
wrong.
it's a video. It's a dedicated video.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
We talked about it quite a bit. I've been using Cloudflare tunnels. Scott's been using Tailscale. So we've mentioned it on several podcasts.
Yeah, I made a video all about my setup, which is similar to yours, but missing several key things that I'm excited to dive into.
And then after that, it's TMUX, and TMUX is a window multiplexer. There's other ones of these that are more modern, like Zellige. Zellige is a popular one. I played around with that. But I'll explain why TMUX maybe a little bit more later because there's some real advantages to it. TMUX is a window manager for the terminal, so that gives you a couple things. Like one, you can actually create windows, like panes. You can split the terminal, just as you could split Ghosty or iTerm or even Chrome. You can split like inside a Chrome tab. You can split that now if you played around with that. So the same thing you can get on TMUX, and then you can have I can have my coding agent on the left, so I can have OpenCode or Pi or Claude there on the left, and then on the right I'll usually just have maybe just like a raw terminal, and I'll go into an editor, I'll look at a diff tool, and that's usually most of how I work. If I need to look at a server, I can also get to that via Tailscale, or often I'll just like build something and push it to a branch and let I use Vercel a lot, like using Vercel preview branches do the work for me of like making, if you have reasonable confidence in the agent today to build something somewhat correctly, then I can go and take a look at the preview branch and poke around with it. If we're talking like a web project, for example, I'm building a lot of terminal stuff, so I just use that on the terminal.
How is TMUX different than splitting your Ghosty term? Like, because I use like split panes in my term all the time, but like, what makes TMUX panes different than that?
Two major reasons. One is that you can detach and reattach to your TMUX session from anywhere, whether that's Ghosty or iTerm or another computer, in a different room. And I think that's really great because you kind of build a little workspace, So I'll usually have 5 windows with different projects that I can kind of tab between. And there's commands that you learn for doing this. And each of those windows has like split panes. And sometimes I split them a little bit differently depending on what I'm trying to achieve. And you can so if you disconnect, you can reconnect and you get that all back. Whereas I think if you split let's say you do a whole bunch of windows in Ghosty and you split them or whatever, if you disconnect, you've actually got to reconnect every single one of those. If that makes sense? Like they're all dedicated. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's just multiple SSH connections, right? Yeah, that's no way to live.
That's how I live currently. That's why I'm so interested in this. Yes.
Look, I think if you just want like the UX, I think Zellige, Zellij, is almost like an easier one to use. I've played around with it. Some people in this office here that use it. But the second reason why TMUX is this and not Zellige, TMUX has a CLI interface that's pretty cool. It allows you to inspect active sessions and to send keys and to manipulate them. So from one session, you can be like, hey, go read the logs in TMUX pane 1. Okay? And now your coding agent just has to run a bunch of CLI commands, which looks something like TMUX space capture pane 1. TMUX space, send keys 1. It can inspect the sessions. It can figure out which pane you're even talking about pretty effectively. So I'm talking about using any coding agent, OpenCode plus probably like a Sonnet or even like a Kimi. Like you actually don't need a super smart model to do this. I find like even Kimi K25 will do this totally effectively. So that's valuable for a bunch of things. One, I don't know TMUX, man. Like, I didn't learn these keys. So like the first thing I did, and this was a total experiment, was give me a tour of TMUX to a coding agent. You're in a TMUX session. Give me a tour. And it just started opening up panes and windows and being like, go check this out. I opened up this. I opened up that. And I'm like, wow. Okay, so you don't even need to learn the commands. If you just want to get started with this, you just got to start TMUX and you tell your agent, they'll probably even figure it out that it's in one. And you can ask it what you want. Like, I want this in this pane on the right. I want this. I want you to split the pane this way. You can just use natural language and you can get the environment that you want without being like an expert. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's AI. You can control the term directly from your local agents. Yeah. That seems very useful to me. Okay.
I couldn't get it to work with Zellage. This is one of the things where TMUX is like, I don't know, it's old, right? It's kind of old.
Yeah.
But all that stuff gets baked into the models if it's old enough and popular enough. So they're really good at navigating it. So that's just for like getting you started, right? Or like, I still use it because like I don't know all the commands. I've gotten better at it. Like eventually you decide to learn the hotkeys. But I still reach for the agent to help me out. But I think more meaningful is thinking of TMUX as a superpower where your agent can just go and read these other panes. So I'm running a server in pane 2. Okay, I'll go debug that by just reading that pane. And it can even scroll up and down. Like it has like the buffer and everything. So it can scroll up and down. It can read the log output and go, oh, here you go. I've got the answer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that tracks. Yeah.
So I've gotten to the point where I even run TMUX on my local Mac for this reason.
Yeah.
Because you can't do it with Ghosty and you can't do it with iTerm.
Yeah, because like the options you have here are like you need multiple terminal windows, right? So you're either having the agent spin up child processes, which you cannot see, or you're opening multiple tabs and you're kind of copy pasting from one to another. And both of those experiences kind of suck, right? So it's nice to, if you have to run multiple terminals, to use something like TMUX where you can use it. Like that's, in my opinion, that's the best AI experience, is where the AI can use it and you can use it in the same way. Like that's why I think the WebMCP stuff is going to be so good, is that like the way that you use it and the way that the agent uses is the same thing. And you don't have to have these separate processes, which is like, oh, now I'm doing agent stuff. I'm going to do it this different way than how I would normally do it.
Yeah, and it's open source and it works everywhere. So that's, you take those properties. You hit on something there, which maybe this matches for you, but like if you use Claude, and it spins up subagents, you can see that the subagent is like, it's really reduced to just like a little like subagent is working, right? Or you can go and maybe manually go and inspect it. I think they've got like commands, but you could also just run subagents or other agents or whatever and just be like, use TMUX. And you're right. They'll just spin up windows, or they can spin up windows that you don't see, but they're there in the background that they can then, like, you could go see them if you want.
Yeah.
And I find that pretty useful. I know that there are some extensions for Pi, the coding agent, which use subagents explicitly through TMUX so that you can see very clearly what they're all doing.
So my question here, maybe you'll get into this, but like, the solution to this stuff is just running this terminal thing. Like what also is really good at this is a GUI, and like links and buttons and things you can click and like URLs that you can surf to see different agents. Like, why try to like recreate this whole environment in the terminal? Okay,
so yes, I am trying to recreate the environment in the terminal. And that was once you start working this way and you're like, man, TMUX is good. Agents are good this way. Yeah. I'm digging it. But now I still have like, well, where's my editor going to be? And how do I run the servers and all this? Like, there's still some missing stuff, right? And look, I'm not like a hardcore Linux user. That's the whole point. So if someone is like going to get really mad at me in the comments, like, I'm sorry if I've gotten this wrong. But like, I didn't even know until the last year that you could use your mouse over the terminal. I really did not. Maybe just because I had no need. It never crossed my mind that I would ever have to do that. But it does. It works pretty good. It works over SSH. So not just, I think people have seen a lot more TUI apps, right? Like Cloud Code is the ultimate version of that. It's clear that it uses the mouse, but it also works over SSH too. Because it's just like SSH will like pass key codes back and forth that sort of represent where the mouse position is. It works pretty well. So you can get GUIs over the terminal. OpenTUI is a library that is what's under the hood of OpenCode.
Yeah.
So if you've used OpenCode and you know that it's got these kind of like user interface mechanisms that you like, you can have like sticky components, right? You can have sidebars, you can have sticky footers, pop-ups, toasts, modals, like all of that stuff is actually very achievable. And OpenTUI, you can write OpenTUI apps in a variety of ways. I think React and Solid. So for me as a web developer, I was like, oh, I can just write the things that I understand, and I get these UI components on the terminal, but it's all the stuff that I remember about, like, on-click handlers and stuff like that. Does that make sense? Like render
Yeah.
loops. So one, I think you're seeing a wave of like new apps that use the terminal because this technology exists. That's cool. So a lot of things that I didn't think were possible a year or 2 years ago, and maybe they always were, right? It just took me to look. You can scroll, you can use their mouse, you can do so much of this stuff. And I use some tools. I could talk about them. Like there's a text editor I use called Fresh. Could be like fresh.sh. Maybe you guys can find it.
Getfresh.dev.
Fresh is somebody trying to build something closer to VS Code in the terminal. So, like, look, I use Vim a little bit just because, like, I'm sure similar to you all. Like, eventually you got to connect to servers. You have to use it. It works everywhere.
Yeah.
But I'm not, do I really want to edit all my code that way? Not really. So Fresh has, mouse support, and it has key bindings that feel more at home. It's also got, like, what do you call it? Like a command palette that opens up very like VS Code like. I think you can open up a terminal in there, like a sub terminal. And you can select with your mouse and delete text. You can go and navigate the menu.
Yeah.
But you could do all that with a web UI of
that's
like
what I'm
an
trying to
open
understand here is
open
that
code web has like a remote web UI. That you got all that.
And I'm trying to understand it for myself as well, is that, like, I find myself gravitating towards just using the terminal for Claude Code, even though, like, the Open Code desktop app or the Claude desktop app, these things are significantly better interfaces. Why do I keep going back to the terminal? Like, why are we trying to recreate GUIs in the terminal, which is, like, obviously a way worse UI? But we like to enjoy it more? What's wrong with us?
All right. So look, this is a very good comment, which is many of these tools allow you to just connect to a remote machine, and then you can get some of the benefits that way, right? In terms of being always on. Why don't I do that? That's a good question. One, I've experimented with it, and I guess this is probably, like, they're better now. I want to put a big asterisk. They're better now, but I think when I went back in time, when I started down this 4 or 5 months ago, I don't know. I didn't like the experience. The second thing is, man, I use all the coding agents still. I still run Claude. I still run Codex, and not being locked down. Like, I think that if you use Open Code that way, or use Cursor that way, you're really committed to using that tool. Like, you go to the effort of setting it up, and you're not really going to let it go. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, I totally feel that, especially like you said, you're changing tools all the time. And like Anthropic pulls the plug on using your Claude code in Open Code. And now what do you got to do? Now you got to either change the tools that you want to use if you want to continue to use your Claude Code Max, or you're going to have to change the subscription, who you're paying, how much you're paying. Yeah, totally.
I still use actually Cursor with the shell extension so that I can navigate the files on the file system. So I still use that occasionally. Like, if I'm really deep into a problem, I will actually use some of those capabilities. So I don't want to say that they're not good or useful or whatever, but I do like I like the portability and the flexibility of just having it this way. A good example is, have you guys played with the Hermes agent?
Bro. Currently, 15 minutes before starting this call, I ran the Hermes setup, like 15 minutes before this. So I have not, but I have like maybe 10 or 12 tabs of stuff open to read after this call. Okay. So I'm curious. I'm Hermes curious.
Well, I've only spent a couple hours with that, but I would say it's like, I didn't have to change anything for my setup, right? I shelled into my box, I installed Hermes, and I ran it, and I didn't have to go and figure out whatever remote magic stuff I got to do.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying, by the way, one thing we didn't get into is one of the reasons I make the code work on the box. And I've also experimented with running VMs on the Mac as well. Could talk about that using a tool called Lima. I want to run everything in dangerous mode.
Yeah.
And so having a box that's just like only loaded with like open source projects, and because you can even segment your boxes to different scoped projects, for example. You can just go ham. You don't have to worry about anything. I think that's also quite nice. Like, just the freedom.
So tell us more about that, because I think that's where a lot of people are at right now, is where everybody's running Claude dangerously skip permissions on the root of their MacBook that has access to like their entire lives, which would be like awful if there were to be a security thing to go down. So like, what's your process? Do you have like an image that has a lot of the stuff installed, or you simply just have one box and you SSH in?
I think it's worth look, I like experimenting, so I got a bunch of things. I have a framework desktop in my basement on fiber that's running Omarchi, that I keep up to date, and that I pretty much just use for coding. And then I think it's got like Steam games on there.
Yeah,
because it's connected to a TV. Like that's it. I'm not signed into anything personal. I guess you could drain my Steam games or something, like maybe in the worst case.
Yeah.
Get my Team Fortress skins or something.
But do you not want it to have access to a lot of your things? Like that's why everyone went nuts over OpenClaw. People was like, I wanted to have access to my SMS and my Google Calendar, and I guess that's more like personal agent stuff versus like development.
Yeah, it is more personal agent stuff. I haven't gone too deep in it. We build an agent. I've built a full OpenClaw style open source agent that we run as well on a VPS.
Yeah,
that's exposed over Slack, and everybody at Modem can use this. So I built some of that as well. I accept that people get increasingly comfort with like YOLO mode or dangerous mode, because 99.99% of the time it's not going to do anything bad, right? And you get lulled into this false sense of security. But I've already experienced agents kind of like reason to themselves about why they got to go and do something, and seen some bad effects of that. And I just like my position and the position of the company, for example, is everything is gated. We don't just let agents go YOLO. A good example is early in Modem's development, we were working with a design partner, and what they had asked the agent to do was to create an issue for something that they were looking at. They were using GitHub. They wanted to, and so Modem it's a multiplayer agent. It exists on the web in Slack. It's not unlike having like an OpenClaw for your team, but it just does like product and project work. Okay. This is important. It also connects to some of your stuff like GitHub. So we had a customer or design partner early on who wanted it to open up a ticket for themselves on GitHub. But because of the context, because of what they were talking about, it decided that what the user wanted was to go and open a public issue on an open source repository. So Modem just went, as you've probably seen people talk about, just went and opened like an open source ticket on behalf of this user, which is not what they wanted. Now, is that going and destroying your computer or like reading your emails or whatever? No. I think it's just that an agent it's very possible for an LLM to misconstrue your intent, right? Because if you said to an agent, depending on what agent you use, like, go ruin my day and delete a bunch of stuff, it can do that with an asterisk that Claude I think has some guards. It'll be like, I don't think that you should do that, but so if you can like reasonably, if the agent can reason itself into a position, like it will go and do things that you don't want it to do. I just don't see how that's like unavoidable, because to me it's almost like it's like talking to a human. It's just possible, like what's in your brain and what you want and how you communicate that to the LLM on the other side. Like something can be lost in translation. It has nothing to do with the effectiveness of the LLM or whatever. Is this making sense?
Frequently. I would say it often does, especially for me, because I make assumptions, right? Like, why would you possibly have thought to do it that way? And then you go back and you read your prompt and you're like, oh, there's so much innate things that I think that it knows, when it's really like it's doing what you told it to do. And if you didn't give it clear or enough instructions, you very easily get off track.
So I don't know. I think I'm more sensitive than most, and maybe like we're also running a business. I think that the bar for us has to be higher.
Yeah.
I don't want to write one of these tweets about torching my email. That seems bad. It seems bad for business. So to me, I just prefer to put everything in a position where it's like not even possible. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
I don't know. Cautionary tales, So maybe that's Yeah, how about you guys? You
But
YOLO
wait,
mode
Ben,
on the Mac here?
Dude,
I was going to say, have you considered that having one of those blog posts would actually be, all news is good news, all publicity is good publicity. You could get your name out there. We fucked up our whole, or we deleted our whole database, and now everybody knows your company name.
I think that it depends on what you're doing. Like for us, we ingest like sort of product conversations that could be happening on Discord, public GitHub issues. It could be support tickets. I think that we want to demonstrate a high bar towards privacy and security, right? And I just don't think that it serves us well to do that. Now, you could still be right, Scott. You could still be totally right. Like, even though I want to conduct myself that way, maybe the right move is to just like drop the database.
Do you think we'll get to a spot where the models will be able to figure out what is okay to run and what is not okay to run? Because like everyone's just dangerously YOLO mode right now, and we hear every now and then these stories and whatever, and like the alternative is like do something like you're doing, which is like set up a box, but like eventually you're going to give it access to something that it needs, and it like you could like at some point you need to give it access to a database, and that might be a prod database, and therefore it should be able to drop the entire thing, right? So you sort of just slowly add in more access to this thing, which makes it a little bit more unsafe. Doesn't access to your whole computer, but it does still have to have access to your GitHub and maybe your email and maybe your actual database. So that's a problem that could happen there. But the other option is just like you have to sit there and approve every single like ls-l. And there's got to be something in between where the agent would be like, no, like, oh yes, I can run a listing of files, but I shouldn't be able to nuke 18 gigs from a database. And I'm curious if you think we'll ever get to that spot.
Man, that's a good question. I feel like let's say the coding harnesses or the LLMs have more of these like protections in place. The thing is, how does it know when you want to do something destructive? That could be valid too, right?
Yeah.
And I do want to mention this. I'm using Linux on the desktop and I'm using this stuff. I use the agent to I could not use Linux without coding agents. I'm sorry. I need a coding agent to be like, why is the resolution half? I have no idea.
Yes. So, same. Yeah, same.
Okay.
Why the heck can't I use SMB? Okay, you don't have it installed. Okay,
I do. If you heard, I use Steam. The little sidetrack here, but I think this is fun because I use Steam. I use this Framework desktop on Linux as like a gaming machine hooked up to a TV. And it works because of all the work that Steam has done with this like compatibility bit layer, Proton for like the Steam Deck. I had one for 6 months, didn't use it, but it works on Linux desktop. I had a game that by all measures is very popular and should have run, but I couldn't figure it out at all. So, coding agent, why isn't this game running? And it just started ripping, looking at all the crash logs, and after 5 minutes, it's like, oh, you got to run with this command and that should pave over this compatibility thing. Man, I Googled this for like an hour. I just could not find anybody with the answer. I was shocked. I just want to make a comment that like coding agents make you doing stuff on Linux way more approachable.
Totally.
But at the same time, it's going and messing in, it's like, oh, let me fix this. I'm just going to go rip and like write these system files and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. And I want it to do that because that's part of what makes it really powerful. And so I'm connecting this to say, sometimes you want it to be powerful. Sometimes you want it to arguably be destructive. And how do you know when you want it to do one and when the other one is right? I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
totally.
No, totally.
Tell us some more about the tools that you've written here to make it. You've got Hunk and TermDraw, which help you take the ASCII experience and make it a little bit more GUI.
Yeah. So I mentioned like Fresh as like an editor that I think just makes it a little nicer to use on the terminal. I realized maybe like 2 months ago that I was suffering from AI psychosis.
Oh, yeah.
And I felt like a lot of people were 2 months ago because maybe like Opus 4.6 has come out and we were all having a lot of fun generating lots of stuff. And I realized that, oh no, I have not been paying as much attention to the code as I have been. And specifically, this is not for like Modem, but I meant for like all my little open source thingies. I was just kind of like, I was vibing more than I'd ever. And I realized part of it was I just didn't really have a nice way to like look at the diffs, frankly, because of this like way that I had adopted. Like, I was using the stock diff program, and then I started looking at different diff outputs for Git that connect to Git. Like, I don't know if you've played with some of these, but Delta is one of them. Difftastic is one that's popular. It does like a more like syntax aware diff, which is kind of nice. These are all like things that you can plug into Git diffs pager, diff pager mode today. And you can do it on Mac, you can do it on Linux. And if you do use Git on the terminal, I use Git on for some reason I never let go of Git on the terminal. So that's where I started, but I was just never satisfied for a variety of reasons. One is I just didn't like their syntax highlighting choices. A big one was they're not responsive. We're so used to responsive layouts on the web.
Yeah.
Right? But terminal programs, not so much. And, sometimes depending on how you're working, I've got a split pane. I've got a really tiny surface area. I don't want split diffs. I want them to be stacked. But sometimes I've got like a really wide area and I want them to be split. And I couldn't actually find like a tool that made that really nice. So it just wasn't nice. So I wasn't reading the code because it wasn't that nice. And then second of all, I was really interested in some of this new technology that had come out. OpenTUI, mentioned earlier. And then Pierre diffs.com.
We had him on the podcast last week. It hasn't, at the time of recording, it hasn't even gone live yet.
Is that Jacob? Who you got on there? Is other fellow?
Yeah, we had Alex and Amadeus on.
Okay, great timing. So like that is a great library, and you're seeing it pop up everywhere. Like anywhere, it's a great diff rendering library. I guess it's going to be on the show, but I understand that they were basically building a GitHub clone. I actually use that product to use Modem in the early days. I could talk about that if you're curious. But so I was already very familiar with their whole approach to diffs, and they put it out as a library, and it's meant for like it's web tech, right? Primarily. But I was curious if you could plug it into OpenTUI, right? OpenTUI supports React. Diffs.com has a React output mode. And I was like, man, is it even possible that I could plug these two things together?
We're like, how the hell is he doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and then would it even make sense? Would it even look good? And the answer was yes. I had to do a lot of optimization. Like I've used the agents in goal mode or auto research mode to like get the frame rate up. And I had people before I released Hunk, people were like, it's a terminal app. Why do you care about the frame rate? And the answer is yes, it does matter. so that's where Hunk came from. So you can check it out at, I don't know, show notes, but github.com/modem-dev/Hunk.
Oh, you need a cool domain name for this. Take a page from the Pierre guys. You need
we have Modem, or sorry, we have hunk.dev. I just got it. I just haven't put anything up there.
You have got hunk.what?
Oh, .dev. Hunk.dev.
That should redirect to my website, honestly.
Oh, yeah. It's a fun name, too. I think that's a fun name.
It's a fun name, for sure.
So anyways, it kind of works. And then after that, like this came out like 2 months ago. Like I was using it quite a lot. And I think that this is always like a nice thing is like when you're using software and you're using it a lot, right? I know you guys work on stuff to maintain the pod, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just gets better. So, like the diffs look nice. And I put in some themes. Like it just looks nice, I think, relative to most of the solutions on the terminal. And it has mouse support. It has a sidebar with a file picker. And that's gone through like a bunch of iterations. It's got some other interesting features. Probably the most notable one is it has a CLI totally ripped off from TMUX, which is that your agent can write and read to it, and it can navigate the session for you. So it takes like rev ranges. So you can say like hunk diff main, like you can diff main, you can diff, main at 5. You can do a diff on a branch, or you can actually just ask the agent to drive it, just like you could TMUX. And it can leave annotations. So it's not only is it, I think, like a kind of like a really nice diff viewer, it's also got this kind of agent integration via the CLI, which I think is kind of neat. So check it out. Hunk.dev. We'll have that live by the time this goes out.
I can't believe you did hunk.dev when hunk.rodeo was available.
Hunk rodeo.
Hunk.
Let's get that
We
too.
may need to, yeah.
It's under $20. We'll get it. What does a .rodeo domain cost?
$116 for the first year. No thanks. No thanks.
Yeah. Also, questionable content when you Google this thing. Look, I don't know. I was making this and I was sharing it, but not like going too hard. I was using it a lot, but it's actually Hunk seemed to get a lot of attention lately. And I guess at this point, like I've even forgotten why it's good, but people seem to think that it's good. I don't know. I think part of it is I really actually liked GitHub pull request reviews. So it's taking like a lot of that UI. If you're familiar with GitHub, code review, you want to leave a comment back to your agent. You want to navigate between different files. It's got a similar kind of like file navigator. So that's what's going on there. And for me personally, it has helped me review more of the code that's happening on this remote box over SSH.
You got me Googling right now. Can I install Omarchy on I've got like a 2009 Mac Pro now.
If it's Intel, you can.
It's an Intel.
Does not do well with the M processors. There's like a fork. Because I looked into this because I was running it on my old System 76 laptop. And I'm like, I would like this so much better on a real machine. Yeah. And I don't have one of those handy.
I've been running, like I have an old MacBook, Intel MacBook, and I had my OpenClaw running on it. And the other day, I haven't messaged my poor little OpenClaw in probably 3 months. And I just messaged it the other day, and it's still running. Like it's laying on the ground 3 months later. Like that's amazing. But I do like that workflow. So you got the gears turning here. Anyway, that's just a bit of a side. Let's hear about your other package that you're working on.
So that's one, and this is in pursuit of my pure portability pseudo IDE terminal setup. The other one is TermDraw. I started experimenting with writing ASCII to agents quite a bit. Maybe because I started as a very young person on bulletin boards before I had the internet. Like I had a dial-up modem. I'm not that old, but like just imagine like a 13-year-old, connected to computers that he should not be in the 90s. Like the internet existed, but you could connect to like a local bulletin board. And so to me, I really have this like headspace of ASCII and ANSI character drawing. So ignoring the terminal, like if I was using Cursor or Conductor or these other tools that I've tried, have you ever had this experience with an agent where you're like, ugh, all right, you built this web thing, but like, can you take that button? Can you put it to the left? You ever done that? And then it's like, oh, you mean over here? And it like puts it in another location you're not happy with. And then you're like, no, like, can you drop it a little bit? And then maybe you'll share a picture. Like maybe you'll take a screenshot and you'll like draw an arrow about like what you want. Have you done that?
I thought this was kind of interesting because you said in your talk, you said like why give it an image when all it does is it converts it to text, and when you can just give it a thing. And I thought like I actually I find screenshots work almost better in some cases than like hooking it up to like a Chrome DevTools MCP.
Oh, they totally do.
Which is amazing. But like I guess Unreal, that visualness is better than the actual raw data of how something works. So is that true for diagrams as well, even if they're done in ASCII?
My experience has been, so I guess I started experimenting with this where I would just type it out. I would just like literally type out ASCII little diagrams and be like, look, I want the button here. And I found that to be pretty successful. And this is going back, to December. So I was already down this path. And then at some point I'm like, why am I typing this out? I could just draw it. So TermDraw is like a terminal illustrator. Okay. You can draw shapes, you can draw boxes, you can put text. You can write text. It's got now elbow connectors. I think I just added. You can have, when you're drawing boxes, you can use different borders. You can put like a dashed border to indicate something's temporary. And I say it's an illustrator because these are actually like objects that exist on the pane or like on the drawing surface. So once you draw a box, you can move it around. It's got baked in grouping. So if you draw like a window and you want to do like, hey, I want a 2-column layout, you can resize things and they stay in place. So it has some context about, oh, I'm a box inside of another box. So if you want to drag things around, so it's got some kind of like nice things. You can grab the corners and resize stuff, and even the text is like movable. So I've done all this basically so I could just like diagram out things that I want, without having to explain it. Like I can open up TermDraw, I can draw what I want and be like, go and do this, in 20 seconds versus having to type out, well, I want a website with 2 columns and I want on the left side, I want this, right? Instead, you can just really draw it out. And my experience has been that the agent totally reads this quite well. I've done a bunch of experiments. Opus 4.7 really good at ASCII diagrams. If you want to play at this, I feel like it really leveled up. Something else.
I've noticed that too. Yeah, I like it when I'm doing like a grill session and it's giving me ASCII diagrams. This or that. Yeah.
I experiment with having. I've been experimenting also with having the agent like draw ASCII diagrams in Hunk annotated comments, which I think is fun. So leave a comment, but it's like I'm gonna write like a sort of layman diagram to help you understand what you're looking at that I wouldn't necessarily want to commit to the code, but I'll put it here as an annotation for you as you're reviewing it. So anyways, that's TermDraw. It helps I'll say it also helps if you're doing terminal apps, if you're building terminal apps, it's pretty useful to draw terminal constructs.
That's wild. It's just like a whole GUI. But in the format it saves in is like a .td.json file. What is in that file? Is it literally just the ASCII as text, or is it like more structured?
Oh, that's like, so normally it just outputs to standard out, but somebody added that as like, well, I want to save it and come back.
Oh, I see.
This is another topic, but I'm having a struggle understanding whether like feature requests are real or not. Okay, which is like another like. So these projects have gotten like some minor notoriety, and now I guess I'm stuck in the world of like people are opening up pull requests and issues, and understanding if what people want is real or not is becoming hard. That's just a side topic.
And is it because like you don't know if these are real people, or do you think it's just somebody that says like this is possible because I can type any thought I have into a box and code it up?
Yeah, man, so many. Like somebody on Hunk, for example, I'm like, man, how is this person opening up so many pull requests and why are they so on point? And then I realized that it's like they're generating a PR for every single issue automatically that somebody opens.
Oh.
And then I'm like, I thought you were just a user who was really into this. And then I go and look at their profile and they've got like, 10,000 commits all from the last few months. And they've contributed to like 160 different repositories. And I'm like, oh.
But like who's paying for that?
I know, yeah.
I don't know.
Is it people that have these, like often I find it's people that have like a startup in the space and are trying to prove that their thing is the best, and then they're just spamming everyone. Is that what it is, do you think?
In this case, like, I don't want to name names. I think someone could easily find this, but it didn't seem that way. It actually just seemed like they were taking a lot of pleasure in contributing to open source, as far as I could tell.
Maybe they work for Amazon and they're trying to get their token count up. And they need to burn them on something.
Or maybe they are building something behind the scenes and maybe they're not ready to reveal it yet. But, here's one. What is my merge accept rate? Right? You can actually you can get some data on this.
Yeah.
Interesting. Crazy.
So anyways, the format is just if you want to save it and come back. I don't know how often people are doing that, but the person who requested it, when I didn't merge, they came back and said, hey, I've been waiting for this. And that's a good indicator for me that maybe they're real.
Can I ask what your flow is for things that must be visual? Like obviously we can make diffs and diagrams and everything in the terminal, but eventually you need to view a video, view a photo. And I know that there's like some terminals that can display images, but like what happens if you just want to like look at a PNG image? And like, what's your process for that?
Well, if you're using Ghosty, which is very popular, it uses
Kitty.
Yeah, thanks. I'm like, what can I say that won't have Linux people yell at me? I think this is fun too, which is like the protocols have changed. Kitty is a terminal protocol, and I think it works over SSH and it works with Ghosty, and you can actually just render PNGs and graphics. Actually, my talk at AI Engineer Miami, that whole presentation was done on the terminal, even though it has full images. It's done over the terminal over SSH, so not just a local terminal. I even experimented. Technically, you can play video over the terminal. However, it's super inefficient, and I wouldn't recommend it. It's really just flashing images quickly. So that's one. So just we're just talking images, and that's a cool one. Otherwise, I think it's like the standard thing where you use Tailscale, you expose a port, I connect to a server. You can still do that, right? Gets a little more painful. I try not to do that if I can. I guess another one is just building, using build servers and generating previews, like using Vercel there quite a bit. But that is like costs money, some compute, right?
And it's like it's like slow as well. Like I was using the like cursor cloud agents, and they will spin it up, and they have like a browser built in to their like cloud agents, which I really like because you can just fire something off. You can go on your phone, and then like if it's not possible that way, some people are like, yeah, just send in a pull request, wait for it to build. But like that's kind of slow as well. Like I feel like there's no like killer solution there just yet.
Yeah. And look, if I was building an Electron app or something, this probably wouldn't be a very good environment for that, right? Or, right. So I think it depends on what you're building.
Maybe that's a good transition. We got a couple minutes left here. Is that you have a podcast about agentic coding, and then you've developed some skills to edit the thing. Like, what's your process for that, and where does that happen?
We're plugging, or the plugin can come at the end, or it can come now. So
you plug whenever you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no rules.
It's called State of Agentic Coding with me and Armor Ronaker. Took us probably 3 episodes before we committed to that name, and it's just once a month. And we're just talking. I think the episodes are like 90 minutes now. Look, I learned so much working with you all on syntax. Actually, we loved working with Randy, super producer Randy. And I hear that he's gone pretty deep writing code and stuff too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're he's writing his own replacement as he's a cracked Claude engineer now.
Yeah, now that DaVinci has MCP and all kinds of OGraph support. Yeah.
Yeah, DaVinci MCP, he built like a whole like little chat window for it, and oh
my God.
And we were like fighting over like what the best way to do graphics was. And like we think like Randy might have cracked the best programmatic graphics approach.
I think he could run a course right now and I would attend it. So we actually work with look, one of the things I learned is how great it is to work with a professional editor. So we hired an editor Sam, who was actually somebody I met. He was a candidate for Randy's job. Okay. And I just kind of stayed in touch. And, I was like, hey, you want to work on this project? So work with Sam. But I think for me, like there's still so much work. You can't just like have an editor, right? It's one thing with Randy knows, he's worked with you all for so long. He knows how you all, what you're going for. But in our case, it's a little different. I need to watch the video. I need to come, like, what do I think is the best, tasteful bits? How do we cut a bunch? Like, obviously Sam can cut a bunch, but we're also trying to do like a really fast turnaround time on this because AI moves so fast. So if we could just accelerate that, like we try to do like 4 days. And then Sam gets me a cut. I got to go and review it again. I'm very nervous about saying something really stupid, guys. I'm really nervous. So I built a bunch of tools to help me with that. Actually, it's open source. I just open sourced it in case people want to play with it. It's called Pod Guy. Can link to it. What's interesting about it is it's a bunch of extensions and skills. Okay, I think people have seen that. One of those, for example, is it'll download like a Whisper model and like generate a transcript, but the skill file knows how to do it. Another one is like I've, find the boring parts to cut in this 2-hour episode. We might have a 2-hour episode that cuts down to 90 minutes, right? Just make some suggestions. One that's actually very helpful is by the end of the edit, Sam has inserted all these interstitials all over the place. And I just find it easier to be like, okay, Pod Guy, just find me where all the interstitials are so that I can time code those for the YouTube description or whatever. And then it just goes and like actually generates a bunch of frames and scans through them to figure out what they are. And then like generates, goes back to the transcript and generates like all these like descriptions for me. So that's just like, it does a bunch more. I think what's a little bit more interesting about it is It's the first time I've used Pi. Pi is loaded in the repository. And when you fire up the project, it's actually like a slimmed down Pi where it actually kicks out all of the it doesn't bring in your skills or your extensions from your local development or whatever. It almost only exists in this world to serve you and the podcast editing role.
It's like a dev dependency of the project.
Yes. And it's almost like an alternative CLI where instead of you trying to remember like all the commands, which I'm never going to remember, it's very much like, here's the 8 things I can do. What do you want me to do? It's not there to write code. It's just there to actually like, almost like it's an agent dedicated to doing this.
I've been finding that as well. It's like I've replaced so much of my like script writing and like these like rigid NPM run whatever. I've replaced so much of that with simply just like a bunch of skills and an agent and saying like, this is kind of what I want. And it's just so much more flexible. And it's not like it's not writing code or anything. It's just like an easier way to have a CLI.
Yeah. I think Pi is a really interesting one for this because it's, I don't know. Have you guys had Mario on here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
The two of them? Yeah.
Yeah.
I did see it.
Package deal. Yep.
Because Pi is so stripped down by default, right? It actually works really well for this purpose if you want to like stand it up as your interface to whatever versus say, Claude. You could do this with Claude, but Claude has a bunch of other things that it wants to do. And it's nice to have something that's just sort of like bespoke, tailored, for this very specific task. And I guess to be ultra clear here, it's not like I run the coding agent. It's like I run like npm run dev, and that brings up the coding agent. Yeah.
That's great. All right, let's talk about Modem. So it's obviously your company. Tell us, we touched on what it was, but like tell us what it does, and then like why should we care about something like this versus just having Cloud Code do it?
Okay, so Modem is 2 parts. One is it's like a product intelligence platform where it integrates into all these places where you and your customers could be having conversations about your product, like support tickets, public community, Discord, Slack Connect channels. Okay.
Yeah.
And those messages go into basically like a pipeline that's not unlike Sentry's. We're very Sentry pilled. And basically just kind of creates like we call them topics, but they're kind of similar to Sentry issues. Like instead of getting a list of like all your errors that are grouped together, we give you a list of all your kind of product topics grouped together, right? Here's all the places that people are talking about dark mode, or you know what, you just launched version 15 of your software, and starting, an hour afterwards, you had this big furor of people complaining about this aspect of the product, like, oh, you broke mouse support in version 15, right? And so all of this is streaming into a platform where it's categorizing it, organizing it, deduplicating it, so that you and your product team can just be like, man, what do people think about our software right now? And you just have everything there. And as you launch new things or you introduce bugs, if people are talking about those bugs, it'll wind up into the platform. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. OptumRx. Sign up for this. OptumRx. I'm begging you. Wes and I had an epic rant on the
Scott's
Optum.
like,
it's my biggest enemy right now on the web. Yes.
OptumRx. Is this a drug
like,
plan?
It's like subscription based. Your meds get sent to your door instead of having to go to a pharmacy. But they like rewrote their platform, and it's total dog.
So often you're visiting a website and you're just infuriated about it, or there's like choices. A part of a product that you use every single day that you just feel like the people that are working on the product have no idea that you're so frustrated with it. And I often want to be like, I'm going to get a job there, fix this, and then quit. Like, I feel like I know better about the problem with this piece of software than anybody at this entire company does. And I wish that I could just get that across somehow. But in the olden days, you had to get someone to care about your actual problem. But what if you could just simply take everybody's frustrations and complaints and all of these signals that something is wrong with your product and like use Modem, right?
That is exactly it. You sold it way better than me, thank God. Which is, like even at Sentry, like we had this, obviously we have great observability into the performance or the errors, right? But what do people think about it? I don't, usually you need the CEO to come, the CEO basically drives by and sends you a message because he's scanning all the channels manually. That's that's one thing that David does. I wanted to know, I wanted to know what that is. If I were at OptumRx, I'd want to know that, right? But often it gets bottlenecked behind people, tools, services, etc. The engineers, the software developers, the people who probably care. I bet there's people over there who care, but they can't even see it. So we're trying to connect that feedback directly to the software teams. So that's part one. The second part is it's connected with an agent that is not unlike, you can call it, Claude, or Linear has an agent where it's really it's built on that data, and it's a multiplayer agent that you can work with over the web or in your Slack channel, in the future Discord, in your Slack workspace. That is really just someone that you could talk to it to just extract these answers really quickly because it's designed to work with this data really effectively. So, hey, what does everybody think about our new RX platform? I'll give you that answer really quickly. But it's not designed to just be a question box thing. It's it can take action. It can, it has automations. It can go and curate your backlog automatically on your ticket tracker. It could actually surface some of these problems directly to your team on Slack. So the idea here is we're trying to get to a vertical product agent, PM, project manager, product manager, that's honestly working with your team and trying to surface this stuff directly to you, because we don't want another tool that things get lost in. So
heck yeah. Yeah, I love that. Now you got to scan YouTube and podcasts for sentiment about products.
This is a thing. We get to dog food it a lot. A lot of people are using Hunk now and opening and leaving messages on social or opening tickets. And I'm oh man, I really need, on top of the fact that we dog food this for Modem, I also now need to dog food this for our open source projects. And it's a lot of work to keep on top of this. So
yeah, man, do you ever see something like this being applied to stuff that isn't software? I'm just thinking about like a physical product, or even just Lululemon has been getting tons of hate lately. Their designs are not good. Their fabric is pilling, just stuff like that. And I'm curious, does Lululemon have some mechanism to figure out what are people saying about our latest leggings?
I think on the conversations I've had is that many companies have something like this. Everyone understands that it's a problem they got to solve. Yeah. And they have this kind of visibility problem. So I talk to companies all the time, which is oh, we built a version of this. There's one person who maintains it and it's not that good. So I don't know what the answer is. They might have something, it might matter to them. But whether it's good or not good or doesn't exist, I think our goal is can we just make the best version of that? And then, based on working with customers and design partners, can we just make the best, give everyone a great version of that so that they can respond quickly.
Sick.
Well, I love that. And I can't wait to see this in action more. And everybody who wants to check it out, it's at modem.dev. We'll have the link in the show notes for you to check that out. I will say, even if this is not a product that you want to use, go to their website because it's a cute looking website. I love your website. I love your colors. I love your animations. I love the whole aesthetic. It looks great.
We didn't vibe generate it.
I believe that.
Yeah,
I believe that.
I can tell. Yeah.
So that was awesome. Thank you so much, Ben. We've already done quite a bit of plugging. So do you have a sick pick? I know you're familiar with sick picks. Did you bring one today for us?
There's a lot of chatter about taste and, Sunil Pai from Cloudflare and PartyKit has talked about look, if you want to get taste, just go out, go to museums, go watch movies, just watch a crap ton of movies, listen to music. And I do agree and I believe with that. So I'm going to pitch a movie. Okay. And that movie is Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie.
Sick.
Okay. Yes. I guess it's an indie film, but it had a $2 million budget, so not that indie. It's a Canadian movie. These guys used to have a web series turned into a TV show on Viceland. And it's basically about two guys who have a fake band called Nirvana. And whether it's a real band or not, it doesn't matter. But every show, I guess, is they are just trying to get a show. They're just trying to get a show at the Rivoli, which is a concert venue. and it's just like a harebrained schemed. I have never watched this show before. Okay. I have no affinity. I'm not connected to this at all, but the movie is really good. It blends like what's real and what's not. If you like Nathan Fielder content, you'll probably enjoy this. And it's also a time loop movie, which it's, I'm really into time loop movies. I won't give too much away.
Did you see Palm Springs? That was good.
Yes.
Time loop movie. Great movie.
Yeah. I think time loop movies are good. I'm now back on time loop. So I actually also just bought a copy of this movie here, 2 sick picks, called Time Crimes. I got it. I saw it on 4K at the at the local bespoke movie store, and this is a Spanish time loop movie from the late 2000s. Also really good. Go check it out. Time loop movies.
Sick.
Well, thanks so much, Ben. I the moment I saw your talk, I was like, I cannot wait to dive in. I already have TMUX ripping, and I'm gonna figure it out. So I'm gonna ask the agent.
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm gonna give it another shot. Appreciate your time, Ben, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Always a pleasure.
Peace.